Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. Welcome back, everyone. Interesting podcast about to begin for you. And I truly believe this is all under the guise of the title of his memoir, which is Footprints in the Chaotic Unknown. We are going to take some steps potentially into the unknown. Much of it is chaotic as we look for answers to validate what's around us and the meaning of life in many regards. He is an author, a scientist, has been with Cal Poly Tech chemistry professor as well. He's done a lot of work, and we're talking decades, even down to the molecular level of some of the experiments and discoveries along the way. Dr. Grant Venerable is back with us on the program. How are you doing today?
Well, I'm a little anxious, but I'm fine. And I think that's why I'm fine, is because I am a little anxious how to pull together all of the extraneous stuff that's going on out in our cosmos, planet Earth and beyond. It's taken me not only my schooling, my higher education, but several years of experience just existing to begin, just beginning. It's just beginning now. And as I get into I'm through my 70s now. So I had a lot of experience in that decade. I'm going to start with one story and maybe a few stories.
Sure.
I was along the Adams Boulevard on the sidewalk among tens of thousands of people in 1953 when our POTUS, named Dwight D. Eisenhower, was standing in this convertible open-air limousine. And he had just come in from the LA airport, headed for downtown to be welcomed with a banner, welcome. And Ike had his hat. He was waving it to the audience. And it was so moving a moment for me to see the president of the United States. Well, the other side of that coin is I validated Ike's existence just from watching him in his open-air limousine. So all of my physical senses were operating, particularly sight and sound. And I could also smell the air. I could taste what was going on in the atmosphere. And then just to touch the moment with all of these thousands of my neighbors lining Adams Boulevard. The next president I saw and validated was named John F. Kennedy. I saw him at his Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum acceptance of his nomination speech for president. And then it wasn't, just 3 years later, President Kennedy was assassinated. So what does that mean? What does that validate? It means no more open-air limousines for presidents as they pass by the crowds. So that tradition was over, but there were still motorcades. The next president I saw occurred before his presidency was a U.S. Senator from Illinois named Barack Obama. That was 1998, when I was a vice president of Chicago State University, overseeing the curriculum and the faculty well-being of that place. And I had to go see him on what vice presidents and presidents often would do, is confer with their legislative representatives. And Obama was the highest ranking legislature in our district on the south side of Chicago, just off Stony Island and 71st Street. We had a chat for 20 minutes on my ideas that we wanted the state government and the federal government to support us in bringing to fruition. It had to do with some real, genuine innovations in curriculum. So that was number 3. After that, and even after when LBJ came into office, I, like all of my fellow citizens, had to rely upon our news media to validate that the President of the United States actually exists. That was never a question until the last 10 years, when we had a particular POTUS who came in after President Obama, who brought a whole new agenda in his first term. But then he lost the second term, which he still disagrees with, by the way. And another POTUS came in named Joe Biden. Joe Biden was from the old camp of politicians who knew how to work the levers of government to get things done for the people. So Joe was in there for 4 years and was the oldest serving president at that time. And interestingly enough, I'm older than Joe Biden by a couple of months. So I'm speaking with a little bit of the gravity that occurs from the years of putting together my own observations and conclusions. My conclusions now for the 47th POTUS are that I can conclude nothing about the man's existence, because the normal ways I validate existence seem not to be functional anymore. There's very little in the news media and the journalism that has been produced by the billionaire classes, since they own all of the news media, with exception of a few independents out there, including some international news media. And so I have a typical cynicism. It's not complete distrust, but I am a scientist. I am a thoroughgoing scientist, first of all, in my existence. I have wonderful relationships in this lifetime, plus the tools I picked up in UCLA undergraduate and the University of Chicago for graduate to help me explain physical science phenomena that cannot be explained by previous tools or reasoning that we had. But I would say that U of Chicago was one of the main places on planet Earth that you would go to get such a thorough grounding in how to interrogate the unknown. That's an interesting way to label it. I was studying unknowns of chemicals that had never existed before. We knew the original chemicals that we're doing chemical reactions with, but there would be many steps in the process to get to the products of those reactions that you could not actually detect and see with instrumentation, the intermediates along the way. Okay, that was my dissertation topic to get a PhD. And I did it on one single molecular ion called pentacyanocobalt-1. It's a cobalt ion with a +1 electrical charge on it, but was surrounded by 5 cyanide ions that were bonded to that central cobalt. And that I was able to produce with high energy radiation. I used one of the small linear accelerators at the Argonne National Laboratory, which was operated by the University of Chicago for the federal government. That became the first national energy lab that the United States had. Columbia University was also part of that team that did the Manhattan Project. The Manhattan Project introduced this field of nuclear chemistry and physics and radiation chemistry and physics. So that's where I got my start. I did learn that this intermediate had an existence lifetime of about maybe 5 millionths of a second. We would say that's a microsecond. So that's how I knew it existed, with this very wonderful high-powered equipment. But now we're in a different era. I'm asking myself, really just in the last few months, with all of the news and non-news that's out there swirling around us, And I'm finally asking, wait a minute here. I'm seeing all these conflicting images. I'm hearing conflicting verbal statements. And I cannot put them all together as pointing to the president actually existing. And there's many stories all conflicting in the news media. So who and what do you believe? I'm advising as a scientist, you believe nothing, really. You maintain skepticism prudently, not entirely skeptical, or you get nothing done. But I have sufficient skepticism to say, wait, I've got to look at this from a whole different direction and ask normal critical thinking questions. What would tell me that a president exists?
Well, let's go there right now, Grant. How do
Yes.
you validate the existence of anything? A president, anything. Now you got me wondering. We're all
That's the
pondering.
question. That's the whole purpose of 4 fields of study, not just science, not just mathematics, but deep psychology and theology. And I say that with greatest seriousness, because without the theological part, there's no background in faith. I don't mean faith in the normal religious way where
Sure.
people say, oh, I have faith in this, I have faith in that. I'm talking about faith that was introduced in the Old Testament, no, the New Testament, in the letter of Paul to the Hebrew part of the church, in which faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. And my mentor, who explored that more deeply in the 1970s, explained, well, that's the basis of the sciences. You can't even do science if you don't have evidence for the substance of what you're studying. And the same applies across the board to any other field of endeavor, whether you call it science or politics or sociology or religion. Or religion. It's dry out here in the desert, so I have to keep drinking water to keep hydrated.
Well,
So
you know
that's what
that
I'm getting at.
water exists. You know that water exists because some of your senses experienced it. You
Yes,
had
they did.
taste.
And
You held it. You held the cup. So
yeah,
touch.
that's right.
Is that part of the things that help validate the existence of things?
Yes, because knowledge, as I finally was forced to acknowledge, can only be validated. Knowledge cannot be validated only with the cerebral hemisphere that handles analysis, logical thinking, and language. There's another hemisphere coupled to it. For right-handed people, it's the left cerebral hemisphere, and it handles things like intuition, things you cannot see. That the right no, it's the I think I have it reversed. The isn't this funny? But the right hemisphere I think handles logic, and the left handles these intuitive, hidden kinds of things. It handles feelings, interpretations of feelings. And in fact, learning doesn't occur in schools or anywhere else without those two hemispheres working together. And you have to, in other words, not only be able to memorize some few facts about the world, but you have to do what the physical senses and the mental, intellectual, intuitive senses do. They have to. That knowledge, you have to be able to see it with your brain. You have to hear it with your brain. You have to be able to taste it, smell it with your brain. And you have to use the tactile sense to feel it, touch it. And all that together with the equations, the facts, the mathematical symbols, gives you the totality of what knowledge is about in the field of what we call epistemology. And epistemology is based on the Latin word epistula, which means letter. And that's what Hebrew chapter 1, verse 11 is. it's a letter, and this letter is sent all around the Mediterranean areas of the church, the Hebrew synagogue tradition, the Christian churches of the Mideast, and also the Islamic religions, and going on to the East. So that's really where it stands right now. And it isn't any more than that. That's what it is.
Well, you mentioned the word intuition, Grant. What is intuition? How do you define it? We know what it is, but really what it is through the eyes of you.
Through my eyes and through my ears and my feelings, the intuition is a feeling. It's something that comes up without working through logic, what scientists call heuristic exercises of the mind. We're not trying to figure out something. We're just kind of flowing along with our lives. And we get a sudden insight of truth that we've never seen before in our lives. That's what I'm talking about. Intuitional. And it too has, you can see it, you can hear it, you can touch it, you can, and you can smell it and taste it. So all that works together. And I probably get several intuitive events per year. I had an unusual one here on the desert when I was only here a few months, but it led me to some deep understandings about where learning began. And it began with what people now refer to as religiosity, or religion, if you will. But it was through the Hebraic aspect of that religious tradition that eventually brought people into a confrontation, which is with what we now know as the physical sciences, mathematics, those logical mathematical disciplines. Where did it come from? It came from rabbis who were the influential ones. Every 100 or 150 years, they got together, which meant they had a good way of keeping records, to reinterpret the scriptures, which got brought to them from Dead Sea Scrolls and other scrolls found in caves in the desert. And there were these strange messages in these scrolls that became what we now know as religion. And I don't want to make any more of religion than just that. These were wise desert fathers. Mostly there were a few desert mothers too. But it was the methodology they used to ask questions of an unknown which they sensed existed but had no way of knowing it. So they called it the hidden one. And it was almost unreligious, unpermitted to even call it a name. But of course it picked up different names. Elohim, Allah, God, Almighty, Creator, all those names. But it's to this presence that they sensed. Well, this analysis, which came through the method of the Talmud, was the key to it. And sometimes they would have to update the scriptures every 50, 100 years for thousands of years until they have the form they have now. But people interested in medicine and sciences like that, curing the body, discovered that this methodology was equally powerful for interrogating the unknowns in our physical lives, in our planet, our geophysics, in our astronomy, and how it regulates the stars. And so I guess there was a split, if you want to call it a split. So the rabbinical methods went off in this direction, and scientific discovery went off in this direction, but they're unified by the same methodology of learning what the unknown is about. So that's what I'm talking about.
Do you find, as life goes on, Grant, with all the teachings, the experiments, the insight, all the memoir, all of this, do you find more than ever you question things? now at this phase in your life? You look at things differently?
More than ever
Yeah.
in a big way. But it's a questioning that says, oh, I'm getting more and more intuition about something. And I might have found it out better through asking questions. But I get these powerful insights out here on the Mojave Desert, and I get more and more intuitive. But I don't try to overdo it. I think I do what surfers do. They flow with the waves down on the California beaches. And even if the wave is 30 feet tall, they find the surfer finds the right place to join with and just rides that wave in until it loses its momentum. But
Sure.
It's such a thrill.
Oh yeah. And I relate. I'm not a scientist, but I relate in a lot of ways. As life goes on, you look at things in a different way, and the things that were important aren't important anymore. Well, it's kind of fascinating. Maybe everybody says that as they get older, through generations. I don't know, because I didn't live then. No. Neither did you.
Having said that, I'm going to throw out something I guess is our last topic. One thing that we have not got the insights and intuitions about. It's something everyone thinks they know about, but actually don't. And it's around what we call two words. One is race and the other is racism. And they seem to be just boggling minds. And nothing seems to be moving forward except people like me who actually cross from one field to another. After I taught at University of California, Santa Cruz, more chemistry, I went through Silicon Valley. There was a different mystery about Silicon Valley that I saw firsthand in the 1980s. How it changed from the creative place that it was that developed. Oh, Macintosh computers, which was, the second kind of Apple that came out. Sure. And then, but what happened? Sociologists and other people, well, why do you only have basically one race of people plus a few Asians that are actually making computers in Silicon Valley? What's going on? How can we change that? How can we make it more inclusive? And that led to a lot of debate until now it's not even debated anymore. There's just a lot of garbage being put out of there. I'm going to leave you with the thought that race is not what people think it is. There's only one race. You and I have talked about that in the past, and that's the human, the Homo sapiens species.
Because we created this thing. Same thing about time. Time doesn't exist. We made it up. It's not real.
We made up our understanding about it. Yeah. And yet, what will come in the future has already happened. And that's how I'm able to propel myself from the present into the kind of future I want to design. I don't care what the news says.
Let's, as they say, put a pin in it. I would love to talk about that, designing your future, maybe through manifestation.
That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
People are frustrated because they think they can't design their future and they're controlled by something else, and they're not. And as soon as they discover that they're free, I wouldn't be sitting here today had I not discovered that decades ago, where I had a control system I developed.
I would really love for us to talk about that next time we get together, because there it is right there. A lot of the principles even you talked about validating what's real, what's not, I think just open the door to the future. And we'd love to do it. We're out of time today. Footprints in the Chaotic Unknown, great memoir by this gentleman, if you want to check that out. And Grant, as always, what's your website? You still have your website, right?
It's Grant Venerable, PhD, all lowercase, no dots, .com. That's the only dot.
Gotcha.
And you'll see a beautiful website of videos and other things. My picture on the in New York City, where that big bulletin board for the Times Square.
Ah, yes. The billboard. The billboard.
10 stories tall.
Yeah.
So plus I'm at VENTWO at AOL.com.
Wonderful talking with you today.
That's
your email address, right? I'm just looking at that now. VENTWO@AOL.com. Thank you for today's discussion. I think we have a little delay on the Wi-Fi. Maybe in the future we could talk about the future and manifesting.
Okay, let's look forward to that.
Likewise. Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Adopt US Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes?
How could he do this to you? And for Sheila, she has split ends.
B, console her?
Oh, sweetie, this is going to happen a lot. 4, maybe 5 more times before you get married.
C, take charge?
Got to get this all straightened out. Give a little talking to, man to man, mano a mano. Hey, Steve! Is now a good time? No? Okay, no problem. Bye.
Or D, help her find a new boyfriend?
I know a great place to meet boys. The internet. Nice, single boys. Never mind. How about some ice cream?
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.